Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Sinclair here at Alaska's News Source, and we are just getting ready for a press conference with Anchorage Mayor Suzanne LaFrance, also expected to attend Anchorage Police Chief Sean Case, and the Special Assistant on Health and Homelessness, and that is Farina Brown. Now, we are waiting for them to show up. We do believe, and we actually know that our reporter will ask the question about the situation over at Davis Park, because that has been an ongoing issue for the last several months. There have been numerous fires in the area, as well as actually 2 homicides, one at the end of last year and one at the beginning of this year. There's been an arrest made in one of them, but not in the other. This is video that we have taken of the Davis Park area, and we asked Mayor LaFrance when we were discussing this, when she was live on our air, about what they were going to do with Davis Park, and she said that the plan was to abate it, but she didn't have a date. She was not able to give us a date at that point. So will that be what this announcement is? We don't actually know, but we do know that we will at least ask the question about what is going to be done with Davis Park. All we've been told is that they are doing a press conference to talk about the actions that they have taken or are taking to address homelessness in the Anchorage area. So we will stay with this live as we await the press or the arrival of Mayor LaFrance, and we will follow along till the end, which we expect to be about 45 minutes. They do say that they are expecting questions from the public and as well from the press. Most likely it will be from the press, since those are the people that are there. And we will continue to follow this along as we hopefully hear some answers about what the municipality is doing for the homeless issue in the Anchorage area. Again, if you're just joining us, we are anticipating a press conference here with Mayor Suzanne LaFrance, obviously the mayor of Anchorage, as well as Anchorage Police Chief Sean Case is expected to attend, and Farina Brown, she is the Special Assistant on Health and Homelessness for the Anchorage municipality, and we are just waiting for that press conference to begin, as we still see a few people coming into the room, and we will bring you that live in its entirety as soon as they begin speaking. And according to our reporter in the room, Lauren Maxwell, she says that the room is full and that maybe 24 residents are actually in attendance. They learned about the meeting on social media, and some of them also got an email from the assembly. So we have the possibility of actually getting some questions from the members of the public as well as members of the media. We also did get a notice that they're starting a little bit late, but it looks like they're getting ready to begin. So we will take the sound. Anchorage Mayor Suzanne LaFrance.
Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here today to ask questions. We're looking forward to giving you the most up-to-date information, and hopefully nobody can hear us. We're not amplified. Okay, we'll talk loud. Is that better? Thank you all for being here with us today to ask questions about homelessness. We have the mayor here, and she's going to talk a little bit first, and then we'll open it up for some questions. We'll take questions from the press first. This is really a press-focused event, and then we will open it up to some questions from the audience, I think. And if there's more unanswered questions at the end, Farina is here to talk with community members and hopefully answer any questions you might have. Awesome.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you all for being here today. Can you hear me okay in the back? All right. Welcome. The most common question that I have gotten this spring is, what are you doing about homelessness? I want you all to leave here today with the ability to answer that question. Let me start by being very clear. No one has the right to threaten public safety on public land. Our parks and our trails must be safe and accessible for all. We are not running a campground. We are taking action in 5 areas to address homelessness: abatement, enforcement, crisis care, shelter, and housing. In the last few months, my administration, our team, and our partners, including the Assembly, have done a tremendous amount of work on this issue. For the first time, we have established a year-round safety net of shelter and services to give people options. We know there are many people who are in public who are in crisis. We are working to get our teams out and engaged with people in high traffic areas. And we're doing everything we can to make it easier to build housing. And this week we are pushing out $5.5 million in federal emergency rental assistance as well. Now we're expanding abatement, enforcement, and cleanup. Public parks, trails, and spaces must be safe and accessible for everyone. No one has a right to put their neighbors in danger. Since I took office, we have abated 23 encampments, and we will continue to use abatement as a public safety tool. We are actively preparing to abate Davis and the snow dump in early summer. We have heard and we share the community's concerns. Abatement is necessary. Encampments are dangerous. They're not safe for the people living in them. They're not safe for people living near them. Let me also be clear that being homeless is not a crime. However, there is no question that there is criminal behavior going on in some of these encampments, particularly the large ones. And there will be consequences. The law is the law. And whether it's in Chauncey Park or on Fifth Avenue, we will enforce it. When we abate, we know that most people do find shelter and other options. Those who don't will continue to have contact with police as appropriate. Anchorage is not a free-for-all. We are stepping up enforcement with our frontline prosecutors now at full strength, and with more coordination with police, we will hold people accountable for crimes, including drug dealing, theft, and trespassing. Public outdoor space is one of the greatest parts about Anchorage. It's why many of us choose to live here. Our community deserves parks and trails that are safe and welcoming for all to enjoy. Public space must be accessible and healthy for everyone. As a municipality, our resources are finite, and we are committed to getting the most that we can from our limited dollars and staff. We're not afraid of a big challenge. We've taken responsibility for this issue, and we have made a ton of progress, and I mean that literally. The Healthy Spaces team have cleaned 600,000 pounds of debris from our parks and trails since January, more than twice the amount at this time last year. Thank you again for being here today. I welcome your questions on abatement, enforcement, crisis care, shelter, and housing. Chief Case, Farina Brown, and Assembly Member Perez Verdia, who chairs the Assembly's Housing and Homelessness Committee, are here today to also answer questions. We are here to share information with all of you and would like to hear your questions. I also want to note that we will be writing down your questions too and compiling information because, again, this is the number one area that people ask me about and want to know, what are we doing? And we want to make sure that you all and everyone in our community knows what we're doing and the steps that we're taking. So again, thank you, and I look forward to your questions. Emily, are you facilitating, or shall I go ahead? Okay, and I know that we talked about taking from questions from members of the media first. And are you with the media, sir?
No, I'm with the Gates Camp, Gates Park.
Okay. Well, we will be sure to talk with you.
Or Maxwell from Alaska's News Source. Homelessness in and of itself may not be a crime, but my understanding is it is a crime to camp in public places and public parks and whatnot. How do you plan to address that? Can the public expect to see more arrests? And as a follow-up, how can you ensure that people who are abated from one camp simply just don't move to a new area?
Well, and I want to be very clear that we have provided a number of options for individuals and are working hard to connect people with services. I'm happy to be joined by members of the HOPE team here with the police department. And I'm going to ask Chief Case to come up and address your issues around enforcement. And thank you for that question. Should I stand up here or step?
Thanks for the question. I think it's important to kind of start answering your question by understanding it took us a while to get here, and how we enforced or lack of enforcement in some of these areas, in some of our public places. And so we're at a position where we're trying to go back in time and kind of correct some of the decisions that have previously been made. So directly to answer your question, when we go in to abate camps, there's a bunch of things that are happening all at the same time. First of all, before we're having people move on the way, we're sending various different teams. With the Anchorage Police Department, the HOPE team is one of the teams that are going in to try to connect resources, to try to shrink the size of that camp before we have to take abatement action. Once the camps are posted and we abate, the intent is to have that camp shrunk down so that the members of that camp don't just completely disperse and go other places. We know that some of that is going to happen because all of the members of that camp are not gone before the abatement process takes place. Once the abatement process takes place, then we're posting trespassing signs so that we don't have individuals come back to the same areas, so that now we can effectively clean the area and restore that area to the parkland that it was intended to be. And as we continue through this process and we take advantage of the $5.5 million that the mayor mentioned and some of the other resources that we have available, we're connecting more and more people to services. The camps are going to shrink. The camps are going to decrease in size and number. And we have to continue through this process. It's not a problem that's going to get fixed overnight. The mayor mentioned that we have done as a municipality 23 camps we abated so far this year. That's a significant number of camps. That doesn't mean that every member of those camps that have been abated are they're gone from the homeless environment. Some of them still exist. So we have to keep the course. We have to keep providing resources. We have to enforce the law, like trespass, when they come back to the location that's been abated, to answer your question directly, and continue working through that process.
Can I, just as a follow-up, you say it's not going to happen overnight. Can we expect to see significant progress this summer, or what kind of a timeline are we talking about?
We've already started the process with the 23 abatements, and we have a couple of camps that are now lined up as well to continue the abatement process, so that process hasn't stopped. So we should continue to see, and I'm sure there's some members here that have seen camps be abated in their areas, and so this is always an ongoing issue. So you're going to continue to see throughout the summer months the services and the abatement and addressing some of the homeless concerns.
What's the early Alaska Public Media? I'm curious, unless it's changed in the last few months, the city's shelter space has basically been at capacity for at least 2 years. And I guess, when you abate a camp, where can people go? I mean, I'm just curious as to if a camp's being abated and people are being connected to resources, but shelters are at capacity, presumably there aren't any places people could legally go. So, I mean, I'm curious where people go.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to invite Farina Brown to come up and address it.
Thank you, and I appreciate the question. To be clear, we are... Sure. Can you hear me now? Okay. How about now? All right. So it's a very good question, and we hear this often. Once we abate a camp, where can individuals go? As the chief accurately mentioned, we are really increasing outreach. Outreach has been ongoing with the intensive support that our HOPE team provides, as well as the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness, which is our contracted outreach partner. Linking individuals to shelter and other supports is critically important. We often hear folks that say shelter is at capacity. Every day there's churn within shelter. There are beds that turn over so that there is availability. What we don't see is 30 or 40 people walking up to the shelter to try to get in. There's typically not going to be 30 beds that are available every Tuesday, but there is capacity. What I would like to emphasize is that there will be days where someone walks up to the shelter and there's not a bed available. What we would say is please continue. We will connect you. We will have that ongoing outreach. We have a coordinated system of care that is more than just our muni-operated shelter. The individuals that are experiencing homelessness, it is not, if I want to get into shelter, I'm not making that one attempt, and because I couldn't get a bed that day, so I'm not going to go back. Our goal is to absolutely ensure through our coordinated shelter providers that we can connect and help that person if it's a linkage back to warming or other supports that are not just the muni-operated shelter.
So I guess if somebody doesn't have an option to have shelter that day, are they at risk of violating the law for sleeping outside if they can't sleep in a shelter?
As you heard the mayor state, we have not criminalized being homeless. So that individual may unfortunately end up sleeping, maybe couch surfing. They may actually end up outside. What I want to emphasize is they should continue to try to connect to services. It is not a desire that individuals will just say, well, I went on Tuesday and there was no shelter space. We want people to go inside. We will continue to abate, and that comes alongside of a balanced approach, ensuring that there is outreach available, that we are linking people, and I'm going to be redundant in saying this. This is not just about our muni-operated shelter. There are a number of other shelter providers that are part of our coordinated system, including transitional housing. I also want to be redundant and commenting what the chief said. We have $5.1 million that's buoying our system right now, moving people from homelessness into housing, that's creating that flow in our system. So it is not just I've walked up to the shelter and there are no beds available. We are moving people throughout the system so that we have available space and that there's also linkage.
And I guess a follow-up to that. So I know that the city and various community partners do a head count of the number of homeless people roughly. Do you happen to know roughly the gap between what housing and or shelters available and the number of homeless people that are currently estimated to be?
I do not have that number off the top of my head, but we can certainly follow up with you.
Mayor, you mentioned that the Davis Park will be abated early summer. Do you guys have any idea when that might be exactly? Do you have a date?
Early summer.
So no hard date or anything just yet?
Well, I want to take the opportunity to stress, too, that with a camp like Davis and the snow dump, this is a camp, an encampment that has been in place for years. And, there are a number of people who are there, and it's complex. It's not as simple as just putting up an abatement notice. The police go in, our clinicians and other folks who, work to connect people to services. It really requires a lot of resource alignment because, again, we don't want to create something that's an even worse situation, and are very mindful that with these large encampments, it's not safe for the people living in them, and it's not safe for the people around them. And so we're working hard to make sure that we approach large encampments like Davis in a very coordinated, thoughtful, effective way.
Any more questions from media members?
One of the things that I know you spoke about in your recent update that was of interest to me is putting cameras in Town Square Park. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and this is a good question for the chief to give an update on that project.
Town Square Park is obviously one of the centerpieces of the downtown area. We've also had complaints for many years about some of the activity that goes on in Town Square Park. We've put a lot of resources, police resources specifically, in Town Square Parks, as well as Parks and Recs resources over the last year or so to try to make sure that that park is open and a welcoming environment, but we can't be there 24 hours a day. And so we kind of consider this as a pilot project for the city. We'll be placing cameras in Town Square Park. They'll be open where you can see where they're at. There will be signs, so none of this is surreptitious recording. And we're hoping, first and foremost, that this will be a deterrent. That some of the activity that is taking place in Town Square Parks that's impacting businesses or impacting those that want to use Town Square Park, that activity will be reduced just by the fact that there's cameras that are operating. What it allows the police department to do is to have access to this information, collect evidence when there are crimes that are being committed so that we're able to prosecute. A lot of the challenges in Town Square Park with doing enforcement action in that area is typically by the time the officers get there to conduct the investigation, the people, the witnesses, the victims, they're gone. And so that information now is lost, and so we can't take enforcement action. So that's kind of the idea and the objective behind the cameras in Town Square Park, and again, it is kind of serving as a pilot program. We're starting there and seeing if it's effective to use those sorts of tools in locations like a park.
Is it something that APD is going to be monitoring, or who's?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a follow-up to that. Do you have a timeline on when those cameras will be up? And then I'm curious, I know that APD uses traffic cameras in the past to sort of to solve crimes. But is this the first time that the police department has had its own sort of separate cameras to sort of monitor a part of town?
The timeline, the first part of your question, I don't have an exact timeline because it's a government project. It takes a little bit of time, but we have ordered, as I think some of you were at the 2 assemblies meetings ago where it was on the agenda, so we have the appropriation, we've ordered the technology, so we're waiting for all that to come in and then to put it inside Town Square Park. Second part of your question is, outside of cameras that are on our own property or our own buildings, yes, this is the first time the police department would have access to cameras that are outside of our properties, police department property.
Are there any members of the media online who would like to ask a question?
Yeah, me. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Jeff Landfield. I just wanted to ask, I asked this question last summer at a press conference about the people who, choose to be outside, don't want help, don't want shelter, don't want treatment. I've interacted with a lot of these people. So what's the plan for people who just want to be outside, want to use drugs, want to drink, want to party, and don't want shelter, don't want help? Are there going to be criminal penalties? Are they going to be dealt with by the police? What's the plan for those people?
Thank you, Jeff, for the question. I want to stress that we have worked hard to line up options for individuals. In addition to year-round shelter, there are ways to connect with services. And if, as I noted, if folks decline those options as appropriate, they will be talking with police. The chief has addressed some of the issues around enforcement, and Farina has also addressed some of those issues. We take criminal activity very seriously and, have heard feedback from members of the community with a number of concerns around criminal activity, and so we intend to have a law enforcement response, especially when we're talking about drug dealing, when we're talking about theft, certainly with assaults and any kind of crime. We are especially stepping up enforcement around trespassing. And I don't know if Chief or Farina, if you wanted to add anything more.
And thank you for that. Just to reinforce, we are going to continue to abate. What the mayor has just stated are exactly the steps that have been taken based on the ability to have a fully staffed prosecutor's office that can work alongside APD. I want to stress the idea is we are not intending to criminalize individuals that are experiencing homelessness, but there is a change in the expectation that we are making services available, and there will be ongoing outreach and engagement as well as enforcement and abatement action. If an individual is engaging in criminal behavior, then that is going to be a law enforcement interaction.
And I just want to stress again, too, that our public spaces must be safe and accessible for everyone, for every person to use them in a way where, again, they feel safe and welcome.
I think you mentioned earlier that this is the first time that there's 24/7, I think the term you use is 24/7 assistance for homeless resources. Can you just sort of describe what that looks like broadly?
Thank you for the question. Year-round?
Yeah, I think somebody said earlier that the city now has sort of year-round ability to address homelessness. I'm curious what that looks like.
Well, we have made an effort to stand up a year-round public safety service net, and that includes shelter. And in the past, shelter was primarily emergency shelter, increased around cold weather. And we recognize that it needs to be available year-round. And so we have done that.
I'm curious, I know that the last year-round shelter would have been the Sullivan Arena, and that, came with its own problems, particularly around public safety. Are there steps being put in place to ensure that any existing year-round shelter won't sort of devolve into some of the issues at the Sullivan?
The Sullivan was a much bigger shelter than what we're operating now. And certainly we're focused on, good operations, safe operations. I don't know if, Farina, do you want to add any more, to that piece?
And if I may, are you saying that we have these year-round shelters operating now?
We do have a year-round congregate, and that's in an open space, the 56th Avenue, which holds, has room for 200 people. And then we have stood up non-congregate, which is semi-private rooms through hotels, and we have made those available year-round. And if you want to address that issue around...
Yes. One's going to close, though.
Lauren, you nailed it. Yes, we are not saying that we are moving to year-round shelter operations. We have year-round shelter operations. Those 200 beds are significant in, as the mayor stated, that is built into our general operating budget. So the expectation for an individual is those services will be available. Providers know where they can link people. To your question regarding how is this different than the Sullivan, first and foremost, capacity. We don't have plus 500 people in one location. We have a network of our congregate and non-congregate shelter services that are really operating in a coordinated system through our third-party oversight, where there's an ability to connect individuals, where we can understand where if someone has some acute behavioral health, something that's very different with our shelter providers this year, they all have case management. Our East 56th Avenue has behavioral health on-site. It has an EMT that's on-site. So the level of engagement and resources that are available is very different, that takes away from what we saw in years past. And years past is what gave us that lessons learned so that we know how to develop a network that meets the need of the individuals we're serving and reduces that impact on the community. Because while we want to make sure that we are paying attention to the needs of the individuals that are incredibly vulnerable in our shelter, we also understand that reverberating effect on the community, that if we aren't doing our due diligence, if we are not being good stewards of while we have someone in front of us, they're just going to walk outside. And if they're not connected, if they haven't built those relationships, then how are we making Anchorage a better place? And not everyone is going to be ready for that. Sometimes it takes multiple contacts, but we want those services to be available. We want the community to know that there is a place that you can direct people.
Isn't the 56th Avenue shelter closing, though?
The East 56th Avenue shelter is transitioning to our scatter site model. We will still maintain the 200-bed capacity between two scatter sites. That is actually now, I'm excited, it's moving into the confidential negotiation process so that we'll have more information we can share back on that later. But yes, that particular location is spending down, but we will still maintain the safety net, moving into that scatter site model that really provides a smaller space that pays much more attention to what the needs are of those individuals, and it also reduces that singular impact on one community that service is just there. We've heard loud and clear from many of you that there's kind of a disproportionate impact on some areas of town, and we are being very thoughtful and mindful of that.
Let me see, Michelle has, you might want to stay up here.
Yeah, Michelle Turia Boots with the Anchorage Daily News. Thanks for taking my question. Given the plan to step up enforcement and prosecution efforts, is there also a plan for some kind of pretrial diversion program linked to treatment for people who are charged with crimes? And if so, what will that look like? And do we have the treatment available for people to participate in that?
And the chief is walking up to take this question.
Thanks for the question, Michelle. We'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the public safety plan in the future, but yes, there is a plan moving forward to increase the diversionary options that are available within the municipality. So when we think about how we respond to those that are committing crimes, we really have to think about it on a spectrum. This is not a one-size-fits-all system. It's not straight prosecution that gets us to where we need to be. There are some people that have underlying issues that have to be dealt with differently. The police department has hired a new employee that specifically focuses on our diversionary services that will be available to our line level employees so that we can divert a lot earlier in an arrest than wait for the typical court systems to take place. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more next week, but yes, that is in the works and being worked on. The second part of your question is, we've thought about services that we have available in Anchorage, and one of the things that we've said for years is we just don't have enough services available. And I think there's really two issues with that answer. The first thing is not doing a great job of collecting all the resources that are available, so knowing what's available and making it more easily accessible because we knew what our options were. The municipality, and I say we, so I mean the entire municipality, has been looking at all those options and collecting them and kind of putting them together so that we know what's going to be available to either the officers, our CAP team, our HOPE team, Parks and Recs, and we also know that there's going to be more services coming online in the upcoming months as well. So our capacity isn't where it needs to be, but our capacity is better than what we once thought it was, and it's continuing to get better as we move forward.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Okay.
Do we have any more questions from the press? Do you want to open it up to?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's Jeff Lanfield again. I just wanted to ask, Governor Gavin Newsom in California just recently asked, talked about getting a law passed to criminalize these camps, and the cities can, ask for help from the state. I know the state's not spending a ton of money now, but has there been any efforts to talk to the state about more help for things like treatment and shelter to deal with this problem, or is it just a city problem?
Yes, thanks for the question, and hopefully everybody heard that. Has there been efforts to talk with the state about how we can work together on options and provide more support and treatment? And yes, there have been a number of different conversations with elected officials and agency personnel as well, and we will continue to have those conversations because I think that's a really important point. Anchorage is a hub city economically and for many other reasons as well, and having a unified approach is really important. I wanted just to ask the team here, the chief, Farina, Cameron, if there's anything additional that you wanted to share with this group before we move into taking some questions from members of the public. And I know this gentleman over here has had his hand up from the get-go. Hello, sir.
ADA compliance. Back in 2010, the Anglo versus municipality of Anchorage, we were classified, homeless were classified as inebriates and with the API people. Are you being ADA compliant with the way you do abatements? And are you following federal law when it comes to abatements?
Well, thank you for that question. It is our intent to comply with all relevant laws when we approach abatement, and it is my understanding that we are compliant.
My understanding is not.
Okay.
Because I have a lawsuit against the city, and the way you do abatements was found incomplete, I guess.
Okay. Well, we'll take that as a follow-up.
So you can answer my question?
Cameron, did you? Oh, sorry. I thought you had your hand up.
Thank
So
you.
we'll take that as follow-up. Thank you
Yep.
for being here. I'm not sure who was next.
I'm not sure who's next. I think this gentleman in the front row here.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Nelson Godoy, and I'm a chairman of Faces of Hope Community Services, a member of the advisory committee for the state of Alaska on the Civil Rights Commission of the United States. The reason that I'm here is this program that you see here is not here to fix the homeless problems, because homeless is impossible to be fixed. Everywhere, wherever you go, the homelessness, it will not be eliminated, but at least, it can be alleviated. This program, I've been sending over to the Joe Biden. He sent them over to Los Angeles. And part of this project is being used by them. And, I've been trying to introduce this one over to you guys and the prior administrations, but they, for political reasons, and I think it is conflict of interest, because everybody's looking how much money is gonna come into your pockets and how they wanna dealing with this and that. And the most important thing is the people out there is the one that it needs the help. Because I'm not saying that your administration is not doing the correct thing. The main thing is the system is good, but it's the people that is moving the system is the one that it create the problems. And that it has to be a lot of people, a lot of entities and agencies that is supposed to be accountable for the people that is upside in the streets. So you already know that. I know your position because I ran for mayor in 2018, so I know exactly what you are.
I want to make sure that we have time for folks, but
Yeah.
I am happy to meet with you
Sure.
and take this. And so, right
I'm
after
willing
this.
to work with you if you guys like
Absolutely.
it.
We
Take a
have
look
about
at that
10
one.
minutes
Okay.
after.
Sure, no
I
problem.
think, Mr. Drake, you had a question.
I've got a question, and I've already gotten this ball rolling. What do you guys intend to do about the biohazards in all of our parks? Honey buckets, 100 buckets. Yeah, they're all getting dumped into the streams. I watched this for 3 years now.
Well, and that is a big reason why we are abating camps and are.
They've abated a whole bunch of camps. The honey buckets are still there.
After the abatement?
Yes,
That-
Clean Spaces does not have the
Okay,
the things they need to clean this biohazard up.
Okay. Are you
You can talk to
may have to follow up on this one.
Taylor.
maybe?
Leah
Yeah.
Taylor's been
Okay.
on that.
We'll follow up on this piece. Thank you for raising it. Appreciate it. I know there was a gentleman at the end here who you had your hand up.
I do have a question. I'm a small business owner downtown, and we've had numerous people down there that we tried to help, and we're getting no help from the municipality here, the way I see it. I've had numerous attempt break-ins, $14,000 worth of damage done to my front door. APD made me sign a contract with them to arrest these people where they trespassed. I have no enforcement down there at all. My question is, how are we gonna enforce this to help these people, to keep from just destroying my business and my livelihood and my property, and still be able to help them?
Okay, I'm wondering, Chief, if the law enforcement piece, since there was a reference to APD
Yep.
on that,
Yep.
if you want to.
So I think for those of you who are kind of following along with the hiring throughout the municipality, recently the municipal prosecutor's office has talked about the number of positions that they filled. I think they're either all the way full or pretty close to all the way being full. What that's allowing is some of these crimes that are outside of like domestic violence and operating under influence. Some of those crimes have challenges getting prosecuted when staffing's at 50%. Now that the prosecutor's office is up to full capacity, what you're going to start to see is some of these crimes start to be prosecuted. So when you sign that trespassing form, that allows officers to show up and enforce.
But my APT's response time to some of this, like the gentleman who pulled a handgun on me, I've got video of that. Okay, 2 hours later before APD even responded to it. Now I realize you got priority calls. I understand that. Okay, and I realize that priority calls take over precedence in somebody's affair. But this man endangered 2 children's lives along with my life. Nothing ever happened. Okay, and like I said, $14,000 damages to my door. Now the municipality comes at me and says, for every call I make, you guys are going to start charging me money now. Okay, I had to board my place up in order to protect my place, okay, from breaking and entering. And you guys are charging me with false alarms when I can prove the damage. I mean, come on here. We need help. As a small business owner, I need help down there. I'm asking in front of God and everybody here. We need help down there, not just the few chosen few, like the Captain Cook and so forth. We need help in my establishment to enforce the law to help these people. And not look at me and bypass me. I haven't seen any foot officers down there in a long time, and I've worked with past administrations, from the Maestrom to the Tony Knowles administration, to way back to Brian Porter days, okay, which was the police chief. I've never seen somebody turn against me as you people have when I've asked for your help. I'm asking for God and everybody. I need some help down there. Can you guys help me?
We'll have someone contact you the next day.
Let's get together with each other.
Absolutely.
See what we can do with each other.
Yep.
Thank you.
We have time for maybe one more question, and then we're gonna break off into.
Okay, I'm not sure, woman in the middle?
I think the woman in the middle had her hand up.
Yeah.
Me?
Yep.
This whole crisis has been allowed to go on far too long. And it seems logical in my mind that the city would be taking these camps and finding, if not one, maybe 3 different central locations for them all to be. And get them together where they can be provided with basic, healthcare needs, water, sanitation, toilets, and not allow them to spread out anymore. This has just gone out of control. The crime is out of control. They're going into the grocery stores and other stores. They're just loading up their arms and going out the back door, and now we have basic things locked up in the stores.
Yeah.
And we want the city back. We pay way too much in taxes for this to continue.
And so the
Do
question.
not allow them to spread out anymore. Get out there, get them cleaned up. If they don't want to follow into one camp, then they get arrested.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, if you guys, put them in one place or 3 places,
Yep.
they can have access to basic services as well.
So the question is, why don't we have 2 large sanctioned camps with facilities? And so, first of all, I want to say homelessness is a national challenge, right? Many communities are grappling with this issue, along with a housing shortage too. And we have seen encampments in our community, some that have been in place for years. And I agree, this is a complex problem.
You guys keep saying complex and it's complicated, and just figure it out.
Yep, and that's what we're doing. So we're taking actions around 5 areas, right? Again, abatement of large encampments and others that are dangerous, enforcement of our laws. We have a full police academy. We have 19 community service officers that are coming on board. We have a fully staffed prosecutors department. We are on track to eliminate speedy trial dismissals. This is huge. We are connecting folks with crisis care. We have a lot of people in our community who are experiencing mental health crises, who are experiencing behavioral health crises and substance misuse issues along with physical health crises, and we recognize those people need a different kind of intervention. We are providing shelter as a place for people to connect to be safe for everyone. I want people to feel like their children can play without worry in parks, and I know many.
We do seem to be having challenges with our feed right now, so hopefully we will be able to hold this for just a few more minutes as they are wrapping up. It looks like we have lost our camera feed. I know they are wrapping up. I believe this was going to be the last question that the mayor was taking. We, of course, will continue to follow this story tonight on Alaska's News Source. And just a quick wrap up of some of the topics that they hit. The mayor started off by saying that no one has the right to threaten public safety on public lands, and that there were action areas in 5 places: abatement, enforcement, crisis care, shelter, and housing. And she said there was $5.5 million in federal funds that is being pushed into the system at this time. I believe that was the number that she read, and that they have abated 23 different encampments so far. They are also continuing to say that they will abate the camp over at Davis Park, and the only timeline that they would provide is early summer. They wouldn't give a distinct timeline. Chief Case also explained that they are putting in cameras down in Town Square Park, and they are stepping up enforcement, is what the mayor said, according if there is an issue with drugs, theft, or drug dealing, theft or trespassing. And Farina Brown, she's the special assistant on health and homelessness, said that the law enforcement will continue to arrest people if they are engaging in criminal activity, but that being homeless is not a criminal activity. They are not criminalizing homelessness. Again, we will have more. Our reporter Lauren Maxwell is down in the room and will continue to ask questions after the event. Thank you so much for joining us.